Alright, today's review is going to be on Shang Chi Legend of the Ten Rings. Let's go ahead and get into it. So, plot 8-4. The plot going over, again, this movie, I said again, I haven't been talking. Sorry. Uh, God dang it. Yeah, so the plot of this movie, it's a good origin story for Shang Chi. I really think going over the family dynamic that he has, and I feel like for a relatively unknown character, I feel like, there's a lot of characters that if a movie gets made about them or a show gets made about them, a lot of people are already kind of aware. This is a movie that not a lot of people knew about Shang-Chi before this movie, and they took it very seriously, and they delivered the plot of, basically his upbringing and where he's at in life now, and the inner dynamics of his family and how all that works. And I feel like they did a very good job of making the plot feel meaningful. Um, I mean, it's essentially I don't want to say it's a family movie at the end of the day because there's a different meaning for that. But you get the point. It's a family oriented movie as far as the plot goes. Okay, so dialogue. Um, 7-3. Again, it's an origin story. There's a lot of explaining to do about the in-universe stuff that they have going on. This movie feels almost a little separate from the MCU at times. They do reference and name drop people in the MCU during this movie, but it's they have to explain about a lot about Tai Lo and a lot about um the Ten Rings, and you just spend a lot of the plot explaining, and then occasionally Aquafina will come in and do some Aquafina shit, and it's Aquafina. Look, she gets a lot of hate, um, and I'm not gonna say she deserves or doesn't deserve it. I don't like when I see anybody get a ton of hate and they haven't really done anything wrong. However, she does always indicate that the movie is not entirely seriously. She does indicate that the movie isn't entirely serious, is what I was going to say. Um, and I think that's just the main thing is her presence is like, a joke is coming, and I think she's trying to get away from that a little bit because I watched one of the Black Mirror episodes that she was a part of recently, and her character is still jokey because again, that's what Aquafina is going to do. I mean, you're acting like somebody who, their main thing is joke should not be joking. So she's always going to be like that. But I can tell maybe some of the criticism's gotten to her, and she's trying to become more serious about it. So I'm not going to dunk on her too hard. But again, I think sometimes she's just kind of a sign that the movie might not take itself entirely serious. But this movie does that for the most part outside of her scenes, which I think is fine. But again, for the dialogue and for the acting, which I haven't revealed yet, it changes it a little bit. It alters it. It brings it down a little bit. So yeah, the acting I have it at 8 flat. I feel like Simu Liu does a pretty good job. God, I knew the guy's name that plays the Mandarin in this movie, but I can't remember his name. Tony Leung, I think. Hope I didn't get that wrong. I think that's right. Um, I think he does a great job. He is really, I think, what makes this movie because Simu Liu, he just does a good job of kind of playing an overall balanced character in Shang-Chi. He does a good job of just kind of like hitting the marks he needs to hit. He doesn't really go anything over the top, but I think Tony, it's either, yeah, it's Tony Leung, I think. But yeah, anyway, props to him. Bro carries in the movie. So cinematography. This movie looks really good visually. There's only some moments at the end in some of the fight scenes where it's got that gray CGI-ness to it, which I'm really not a fan of. But again, I understand it's a big budget movie. They're trying to do a lot of things, especially with the the big Cthulhu like creature that we see at the end of the movie, like the Lovecraftian deep like creature. But yeah, I feel like this movie did a really good job of, especially with the action scenes, making them look really good, shooting the choreography in a way that it does, it does a service for the choreography where it helps show off what they put a lot of effort into. And again, in a lot of the fight scenes, that's where this movie excels, but also in like kind of the nature elements of the movie too. When they're trying to show off the beauty of Tai Lo, I feel like they do it successfully with the cinematography. So a little bit of gray CGI stuff to the visuals, but again, it seems like that's almost inevitable at this point. There's so many shows and movies that have that problem, so I don't know if I can really like say this is strictly a Shang-Chi problem. So yeah, shout out the fight scene visuals in this movie. Soundtrack. The soundtrack is the second best thing in this movie to me outside of the action. The action is the best. That's part of the bonus categories, but the soundtrack is just so like mystical and like it's very hopeful, but it sets the tone. It sets a good vibe for the movie. The soundtrack of this movie is one of the better soundtracks in the MCU. Period. I believe the soundtrack in this movie is can easily be compared to the Black Panther soundtrack as far as fitting the character and really like giving you a vibe about what's going on. And I think that's something that the Thor movies and the Ant-Man movies, and probably I think the Iron Man movies to an extent. Well, I don't know. The Iron Man movies do a pretty good job of it. Yeah, they do a pretty good job of it. The soundtrack in the MCU is normally pretty good. But mainly the Thor and Ant-Man movies, they don't really hit on that as much as the other movies do. And this movie hits on it, and they hit on it pretty well. 8/8's pretty high for my soundtrack rating. So, yeah, that is what I think of the base ratings for this movie. The comedy, I have it at 8. Again, they took a lot of jokes in this movie, especially with Ben Kingsley's character, I believe, and Trevor Slattery, the joke Mandarin. They do a lot with him as far as the comedy goes, and Aquafina and Simu Liu. And it's okay. It's not bad. It's above the standard, I guess. The world building 8-2 again. It opens up. The reason I gave it an 8-2 is because it opens up almost like this other world inside the world of the MCU, and it gives more depth to what we already know. So I feel like with world building, adding a couple of characters from this movie to the MCU, and then also adding a new world to the MCU inside a world, I feel like is meaningful. The characters I have it at 8 flat. I mean, that's a pretty base rating. That means you didn't really do too much to impress me. But again, I mean, Shang-Chi is fine. The Mandarin is fine. They're not, bad characters by any means. Yeah. So then the action is the next grade. I have that at a 9.3. I believe it's the best or tied for the best in action. The movies it's tied with are Endgame and Infinity War, and they have so many different characters to pull from. So yeah, I think the action is pretty damn good because those movies are a lot higher budget, a lot higher effort movies, like a bigger just production in general. So yeah, now we come back around to the total grade. The total grade I gave this movie is an 8.5. I feel like this movie is a very well-rounded movie. It doesn't really hit the peaks that it could hit, but it does do all the little things well outside of the dialogue. Again, the dialogue, a lot of it is just explaining and setting up how Tai Lo works and where Shang-Chi's been at and what's going on in his life. So maybe that'll get better as the trilogy develops. I think they're planning on doing a trilogy for Shang-Chi because I think that's kind of like their thing is they want to do like a trilogy for like every main character they introduce. But yeah, I think it'll be better in future movies because they won't have to do as much explaining. But yeah, let me know what you guys think about this movie, Shang-Chi. Let me know what you guys think about my review of this movie, and thank you guys for watching, and peace.